Our first author is Kurt Akeley from Lytro. He's a CTO there, and I'd like to bring him up. His paper is titled Envisioning a Lightfield Ecosystem, and it's an invited paper for this session.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. So let's get started right off. Can you all hear me? Yeah, okay, I'm close enough to the microphone. Great. So as I suspect everyone in this room is well aware, we're in a kind of golden age of display technology. Those of you who are as old as I am remember that CRTs were going to be replaced forever, and it seemed like it took forever, and then all of a sudden it happened. And now there's this unbelievable plethora of stuff. You can see it out on the show floor. There's a lot of research kind of things that aren't on the show floor. So in any event, that's clearly true, and we all know that. Something that you may be a little less familiar with is that we're at the beginning of an era of sort of practical capture of what are called light fields, building cameras that actually can capture a light field practically. Perhaps that'll be a golden era. We shall see. So the opportunity that I'm going to explore today is kind of twofold. I'll talk a bit, kind of develop the notion of light field capture and light field cameras using concepts that I hope are familiar to all of you in the room. And then once we've gotten through that, spend some time, the remaining time, talking about how systems can be constructed that use light field cameras to capture scene data and then use available display technology or perhaps research display technology to display the results and build that into interactive systems. So let's get started. We'll start with integral imaging, which is a technology that I expect many of you in the room are familiar with, but I'm going to walk through it briefly anyway. So integral imaging begins with integral photography, and that begins over 100 years ago. It's kind of delightful in a way that there's nothing new under the sun. And indeed, this idea, Gabriel Lippmann's idea of building a photograph that has the quality that when you look at it from different perspectives, it looks not like you're looking at a photograph, a 2D image, but instead it looks like you're looking through a window at an actual scene. Ideally, that would be true of all of the percepts. In practice, it might just be true of things like directional parallax and maybe not true of accommodation. So he actually implemented something, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of the details, but the takeaway here is that it uses the same trick that people have been using ever since, which is to build directional pixels. And usually the way a directional pixel works is it's a little micro lens with an image behind it, and that image determines what color the pixel appears to be based on where you're looking at the pixel. The micro lens might be a pinhole. There's various alternatives here, but the basic idea is build a system that has directional pixels. And the original integral photography, the micro lenses were on top of a piece of photographic paper. You expose it. When you expose it, it captures all of the rays that are incident on the photograph. And then later on, after you've developed the photograph, you can illuminate the photograph one way or another, and then the rays come back out through these directional pixels, and you see the scene as it was viewed by this integral photograph, and what you see is a function of where you're looking from. So it's a very clever idea. This notion of all of the rays incident on the photographic film or on the surface of this photograph is captured by the notion of light field, which was a term that was coined several decades later. I think formally it really refers to all of the light and the volume that's being imaged. In practice, since in photography we're not really interested in the light that doesn't impinge on our sensor, often the term light field, and the way I'll use it, is this 4D light field notion, which is just all of the rays that are incident on, in this case, the integral photograph.